Hey class, this is Philip Bredenberg, and I just wanted to provide you with three broad overarching points as you go through the lecture on the Great Awakening. First is, as you're going through the materials, you're going to come across a man named John Wesley. There's also a lot of other very important preachers during this time, notably John Edwards and George Whitefield. And if you read their sermons, you're going to notice, as you compare them with men before them, Martin Luther, Augustine, whoever, that the sermon is fundamentally changing. Obviously, each culture has a different way of doing the sermon, but in this culture, with the Great Awakening, you have a change in that it's becoming more about the audience. It's becoming more about democracy. What I mean by that is people like George Whitefield and John Wesley will specifically target their audience. They'll talk about the audience. They'll talk about the jobs that they have. They'll talk about the family structures. They'll talk about what it's like to live in the modern world. This is slightly different from the way that Martin Luther and those before him were doing it, or Catholic priests for that matter. Also, a second point, along with the sermon changing, is that information is being passed in different ways. George Whitefield is a master of passing information. Obviously, the printing press has been around for 200-300 years at this time, but George Whitefield will take this to a new height. He'll print pamphlets, he'll print magazines, he'll put things in mailers, he'll blanket an area saying, look, I'm coming, I'm going to do a sermon at this time, I'm going to have a revival, you should all come. This is completely different from the way things were done before this. I mean, people going around preaching, there was never any press, there was never any hoopla. It was just kind of like someone would show up. And because he's passing so much information in like newspapers and things like that, the buzz is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. People are starting to think outside of their communities. They're starting to think in terms of the country, the world. So information is being passed on larger scales, and so revivals are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The last thing is democracy. We're obviously in the beginning stages of the American Revolution. It hasn't really happened at this point, but democracy is beginning to flourish. It's beginning to grow. Ideas are starting to catch on. And this is important for the Great Awakenings because, how do I want to say this? People vote with their feet. They go to who they're interested in. Before this, there were parish boundaries, and you were born in an area, you went to such a church. You were born in a different area, you went to a different church. It was just set up that way. Now with the Great Awakening, those are starting to break down. People are starting to go wherever they're interested, wherever they think they'll find their fulfillment. And so democracy is changing the way Christianity is done in America, in that it's no longer about, I don't have any choice, I just go to this church that's in my parish. It's, okay, do I want to go to the Baptist? Do I want to go to the Wesleyans? Do I want to be a Presbyterian? Who's saying what? What do I think? Things like that. So as you're going through the lectures, remember those three things. The sermon is changing fundamentally. Information is being passed in a different way, in larger ways. And democracy is beginning to key in important ways. Good luck with your studies, and I'll see you on the discussion boards.